Imagine a country that has spent nearly half a century under the greatest economic blockade in modern history. A country that the West points its finger at, that headlines paint as a threat, and whose population of 90 million people carries every day the weight of decisions they never made. Now imagine that when you cross its border, the first thing you encounter is not hostility or desolation, but a warm cup of tea and a genuine smile. In this country, a woman can be detained for showing her hair in the street, but she can also graduate as a nuclear engineer. That is Iran. And it is probably the complete opposite of what you expected. In this video, you are going to learn what it is really like to live in one of the most sanctioned and misunderstood countries on the planet. What you are about to see will surprise you. Stay until the end. How does an entire society survive under a half-century blockade? The answer has much more to do with ingenuity than with oil. When someone says Iran, most people picture sand, heat, and war. The reality is that only 22% of its territory is desert. The rest is made up of jungles in the north, active volcanoes, snow-capped peaks, and a coastline on the Caspian Sea that in summer fills with Iranian families just like any Mediterranean resort. With 1.6 million square kilometers and 90 million inhabitants, Iran is the second largest country in the Middle East. But its true size is not measured in kilometers. It is measured in the distance between what the world believes it to be and what actually happens within its borders. And that distance begins to make sense when you understand why they have spent 50 years trying to suffocate it and have failed. It all began in 1979. The Islamic Revolution overthrew the king who was an ally of the United States, and the subsequent hostage crisis at the American embassy in Tehran completely severed any diplomatic bridge. Since then, the sanctions have never stopped. Oil blocked, banking system isolated, technology banned. The official justification changes depending on the decade. The nuclear program, support for armed groups, human rights. But the underlying reason is simpler. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes. An independent Iran is, for the West, too dangerous. What no one planned was what happened next. When medications stopped coming in, Iranian engineers started manufacturing them. When Google blocked its app store, Cafe Bazaar was born, with millions of users. When Visa and MasterCard left, they built their own payment system. Today, Iran manufactures its own automobiles, grows its own rice, exports silk carpets valued in international luxury markets, and holds some of the largest oil and gas reserves on the planet. The sanctions sought knees on the ground. Instead, they found forced creativity. But if the country functions, what is it like to live inside it? The capital has an answer no one expects. "9 million people, 40-story skyscrapers, the Milad Tower at 435 meters, one of the tallest in the world. A modern metro that costs less than 10 cents of a dollar. Cafes open until the early hours of the morning, serving cold brew and cappuccino in the style of Milan. At night, the parks fill with families, couples, and groups of friends. There are no bars or nightclubs, but nightlife exists on the illuminated bridges, the roasted corn stands, the long conversations, and the street music that plays on every corner." Tehran fits no stereotype. It is chaotic, vibrant, contradictory, and completely alive. And in the middle of all that life, there is a group that carries more weight than anyone, and who is still changing the country from within. The hijab has been mandatory by law since 1979. That is not an opinion, it is a fact. But what that law means in the daily life of 2026 is something that headlines rarely explain well. The legal reality is harsh. and it must be stated without softening it. To leave the country, a woman needs written permission from her father or husband. In court, her testimony is worth half that of a man. Divorce is far more accessible for men, and for decades, any sign of public defiance could end in arrest. In 2022, the world witnessed what it means to resist all of that. Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old woman, died in police custody after being detained for wearing her hijab improperly. What followed was the largest wave of protests in generations. Women burning their veils in the middle of the street. Men marching alongside them. The slogan, "Woman, Life, Freedom," echoing through every city. The crackdown was brutal, hundreds dead, thousands detained, but something changed. Not the laws, at least not on paper. Something harder to legislate. The threshold of what is tolerable shifted. Today in Tehran, it is possible to see women with their hair visible, with bold makeup, with fitted clothing. The morality police still exist, but they intervene noticeably less. The social pressure that once guaranteed obedience has eroded, especially among young people. And while that happens in the streets, something equally powerful is happening in the classrooms. 60% of university students in Iran are women. There are more female engineers, doctors, and scientists per capita in Iran than in many countries that have never faced a single sanction. They are highly educated, they speak languages, and they have their own ambitions. The central contradiction of the Iranian woman is not between tradition and modernity. It is between what the law says she must be and what she actually is. And that gap grows harder for any government to close with every passing year. And the generation that grew up watching all of this is making a decision no one expected. More than 65% of the population is under 35 years old. They grew up under sanctions, under internet censorship, under rules they did not choose, and yet they are the most globally connected generation Iran has ever produced. They follow K-pop. They learn programming on YouTube using VPNs. They debate artificial intelligence and launch tech startups. But every time they step outside, they must fit into a version of themselves they do not always recognize. That tension carries an enormous cost. Between 2018 and 2022, more than 1.5 million Iranians left the country. Most of them were young, qualified professionals. Iran leads the world in brain drain. Those who stay do so by choice. They are designers, programmers, and filmmakers who have decided that change must be built from within. They use the internet as a loudspeaker to show the world an Iran that the international media does not cover. Because that Iran, the one that does not appear in the news, has places that will literally leave you speechless. Isfahan is called half of the world. Its Naqsh Jahan Square, recognized by UNESCO, is surrounded by Islamic architecture that at sunset seems to ignite in blue and gold. At night, the locals gather beneath the arches of its historic bridges to sing and recite poetry. Persepolis reminds you that Iran is not a recent problem of the 20th century. It is a civilization more than 3,000 years old. Its 20-meter columns and its reliefs depicting 23 nations paying tribute to the Achaemenid Empire make anyone who stands before them feel small. Shiraz, the city of poetry and roses, is home to the most photogenic mosque in the world, the Nasir al-Mulk Mosque, whose colored stained glass windows project a kaleidoscope of light across the floor every morning. It is not a postcard, it is real. And how are you received in a place like this, with something that no travel guide can ever quite fully describe? There is a Persian word that defines how Iranians relate to foreigners. Tarof is a system of generosity and courtesy, so deeply embedded that it forms part of their cultural identity. It means that when someone offers you something, they do not always mean it the first time, but by the third time they do. In practice, this translates into something very concrete. It is almost impossible to spend a day in Iran without someone inviting you to tea, helping you without asking for anything in return, or proposing that you have dinner with their family. Not out of self-interest, but because in Persian culture, hospitality toward the stranger is a sacred obligation and one they take pride in. Iran does not need to be idealized in order to be understood. Its restrictions are real. The political repression is real. The control over women is real. And the human cost of 50 years of sanctions is real too. But also real is the vitality of its streets, the ambition of its female engineers, the depth of its millennial culture, the warmth with which a stranger opens the door of their home to you, and the creativity of a generation that learned to build its own world within the limits imposed on it. The world has an image of Iran made of headlines and geopolitics. The reality looks much more like this. Did something surprise you about what you saw today? Tell me in the comments. And if you know someone who thinks they already know everything about Iran, share this video with them. Sometimes the best way to change a perspective is simply to show what cannot be seen. See you at the next destination on the screen.